Back in 2015, The Economist started on a strategic project to advance the state of their customer-oriented analytics. And we were fortunate enough at Looker to meet Bobby and his team quite early on. And that evolved originally, kind of from really just almost fireside chat style discussions around strategy and general approach to kind of a proof of concept. And then, fortunately enough now into a customer relationship and a phase 1 deployment. I think there's, you've heard some of this, tonight from a couple of the first speakers, but just the process, right, that you go through to move to that next level, right, and take a big organization, right, to the next level of focused around customer analytics is quite a journey. And so what we thought we'd do here for about 15 minutes is, Bobby and I will just kind of do this in a chit-chat kind of way and just kind of take you through, some of the things that Bobby and his team experienced, some of the things they learned, some of the challenges that they still have in front of them, and then at the end we'll take some questions. Okay, so I remember very clearly, Bobby, the first time that the Looker team, met with you. I mean, you were really in the concept phase, right? And what you described to us was really very similar to what we see at a lot of companies that we talk to, right? You had a lot of operational data sources, many. Yes. Right. That had customer-related information in them. And then, your end, in terms of evolving or, taking a quantum leap, right, in customer-based analytics, you wanted to get to more of this notion of a 360-degree view of the customer, right? You have all these systems, right, that have all this data about your customers, but you want to get a more holistic view. So I think the first place to start here is, what were the challenges that you had related to all these siloed operational systems in terms of getting a fuller customer view, and what was the challenge or the desired objectives that your executive team threw down to you and your team and said, here's where we need to get to? So maybe talk to those two things for a while.
Yeah, so I think the first couple of sessions have sort of laid the foundation, but I think the big piece we had lots of different tools across the board that were specialized in terms of from sales to marketing to analytics. So what we then had is sort of specialist reporting tools on top, so silos on top of silos, teams within departments only talking to themselves. And what we wanted to do was to bring it more together. And one of the key things was we were asked in terms of a team to think about a 5-year plan. And a 5-year plan in data is a bit, silly, but I think, so with the 5-year plan, what we actually did was use that as an opportunity to go out and capture information about where each of the different departments were, what were their challenges, what's currently an issue for them, and how we can actually work on that to fix that. So that actually became the foundations of what we wanted to do with this whole piece. And as well as that, in terms of coming from a data team, we wanted an environment where we could store and manage the data so that we could actually really understand it, look at it, and not just look at it from siloed points of view.
Yeah, I think that was one thing that struck us very early on. You knew right from the beginning that a data consolidation strategy, right, and having a scalable data processing environment, right, was kind of a cornerstone. What made you decide early on that was where you needed to be?
I think in terms of the organization, because there were so many different things going on, even if you look at costs, skills, people, objectives for the group, we knew we needed to do more with our data to be able to hit some of the targets from the board at the top, where we had clear objectives as a group, the numbers we want to reach and where we want to go. To bring all of that together, we knew that this was coming and how we were trying to sort of preempt the work that we could actually start doing. And that was the sort of the birth of the POC almost.
Right, exactly. So that kind of takes us to the POC. So talk for a minute about, clearly you were very focused in the POC. You were not trying to boil the ocean.
Yeah.
What were some of, for the audience, what were some of the objectives, the primary objectives for you in the POC?
So what we really tried to do was really focus on an area. So we worked with the acquisition team, so one small team that was very digital in their approach. So they were good, they were fast, they were agile, they were everything that we wanted to work with as a partner. So they were a great fit for us. So what we did, worked with them in terms of finding out what they would want to do. So while we were working with those guys to build up the proof of concept and what would be a successful POC, we also then actually worked with the other business areas to really understand what they need and actually be able to answer them their questions, so we could actually have a insightful demonstration instead of just a technical one, because we didn't want to just have an IT project here. We wanted to show how each area of the business can really get benefit from what we were looking at.
And I think everyone would find this interesting that, I'm sure there's a number of economist customers in the audience.
Yeah.
So there was one particular question, right, that became a focus for the POC related to the use of the different digital properties, right, that the Economist has. Can you just describe that for everyone?
Yeah, so one of the things that we had was, again, going back to the silo points, where we had lots of different tools, even within our web analytics. So one of the questions we were asked was the overlap between the apps and the website, which is a question we should be able to answer as an organization, but we could in terms of samples, but we never had enough, never had an environment where we could pump all of this data and then actually use it. So with the ability of storing the data within a Redshift environment, we were able to then cross-analyze that data and actually help the business to see the crossover between our daily edition Espresso app versus the weekly app, and then also website, so that we could get a really good understanding. And just to show that back to the business, that was sort of everyone from the board to finance to BI, and also the product guys within the wider team that could really understand their products and how they're working, was just really insightful. So one piece of analysis really helped us across the board.
Yeah, that was a fascinating part of the whole POC for us as well. So I think your team embraced, I think, significantly the spirit of Lucas's talk, right, around BI prototyping.
Yep.
Right, and so I think one thing we see a lot at Looker talking to prospective customers is there's quite a big intimidation factor, around the word trial or POC. If you haven't built a consolidated data environment and you have all these operational data sources, that looks a little daunting at first, right? And so talk to the approach you took in terms of limiting the number of systems and how much data and the process you went through to make this manageable.
Yeah, so we worked in an agile approach, like was mentioned in the other session. So really sort of small steps, but really key in terms of we wanted to know where the value is. And once that was identified by working with the business stakeholders, we were then able to put something together around it. And once we had that framework in place, that then really built up the steps of how we could deliver the POC and add value and insight. And not only just from a business intelligence point of view, this is more from an analytics, data science platform that will allow for all of these touch points across the board, but we'll have the data in a consolidated way with access that we can share with other areas. And that's where Looker fitted really well with what we were trying to do.
Right, and I think you limited in the POC, you limited to just 2 or 3 of your core data sources, some of the ones we have mentioned here, your web and app events, your CRM data, your marketing automation data. How much data did you end up extracting from those systems, and what was the process of extracting the data and consolidating in Redshift?
I think that was one of the biggest challenges for us, is to pull the data out of these systems, because in terms of the systems that we had and the partners that we had to firstly try and capture the data, pull the data, and I think the example was given for Reed, it was quite a quick process for us. It took us months to get the data out of the vendors, but once we had the data, we turned everything around really quickly. So we based it on April from our financial year to the end of the year. So we had about 9 months or so's worth of data, and we had about 2.5 billion rows.
Right, exactly. So about 9 months, 2.5 billion rows, right? And then what, what was the net result of the POC? So, you were limited in terms of the number of questions, you were limited in terms of the amount of data and the time frame and the specific systems you went back to extract. How much value were you able to expose now, to the business from a proof of concept point of view? What were some of the key learnings or the key value propositions you were then able to turn back and show to your executive stakeholders and your executive team and your board?
Yeah, so in terms of the board, it's been really interesting. My boss, Chief Data Officer for The Economist, is here as well. So him and I have actually been working with the board. So since the project started, we've really been actively involved. So we presented sort of our first session, but then subsequently we've been asked to attend the next two board meetings to give updates on where we are, what we're doing. So across the board, from our circulation team to our sales team to our editorial team, we've managed to get everyone involved in the piece and bring everyone together along on this journey, so that there's almost like a buzz around data again, and that going back to the 5-year plan that we were originally tasked with, it's not a 5-year plan, but we're going in the right step in the right direction.
So the code name for the overall customer analytics project was called Reveal.
Yes.
Right. So this slide represents kind of a holistic, high level view. But one of the things that I think is interesting, and this kind of does touch back to Lucas's talk about just BI prototyping and evolving a vision. I don't believe that in the beginning the vision was, it was a chicken and egg type of issue, right? You until you did some prototyping, until you did some work, you couldn't really fully form the vision, right? So talk a bit about how the vision for Reveal evolved, as you were doing the prototype work.
So it's the kind of, I don't think the vision's something, and the slide, I mean, it was more about what we're trying to achieve. And I think the key thing is we want to listen more to our consumers, think smarter about the data in the middle, but we want to execute smarter as well. So linking all of that together so we can, again, drive and support the business was always the objective. And actually what's happening is that this is happening over time and things are constantly improving. I mean, we had a good meeting this morning just internally talking about some of the stuff that we need to do, and it's just helping us along that journey. So things are always going to change. Processes are going to change. There are going to be new partners. There are going to be new vendors. And actually being able to think and have the ability of a core system that allows for that is something that we've done. So yeah, it's been a journey, and it still will be.
Who are the stakeholders internally that you had to bring together to get alignment for the vision, right? How wide and extensive? Because part of this process for a bigger company, right, is the political aspect, right, of getting everyone aligned to the vision, right? How many different stakeholder groups, and how difficult a process was that?
So once the POC was built, I did like a little roadshow where I went to different people, and it felt like every other day I was doing another show, another demo, another system. And yeah, it probably, 10, 12 times I actually did exactly the same demo. So I can almost know it off by heart now, and to every which person from sort of the board down to the different teams, and also internally within our team data, just to make sure that the whole team's involved. So data science, insight, and also sort of the BI teams, product teams, and also just making sure that we knew what we were doing in terms of there was no surprises. So it's having little conversations here and there, trying to sort of boost it up with certain people that we know are influential across the group. So yeah, just to get that buzz around the business.
One of the things with the vision is it involves a lot of stakeholders that all have their own specific business objectives, right? And so this process of who gets to go first.
Yep.
And once you start to build something, and I think we heard this from some of the other speakers, everybody starts to put up their hand, right? Everybody wants to be involved. Maybe just talk specifically, as you're in phase 1, moving to phase 2, phase 3, what were the strategic elements here of Reveal that where you decided to start first? What parts of the business were the highest priority?
So we wanted to do a lot with our web data and our web traffic and the information within that space. But in terms of the team, when we presented to the board of directors, what we wanted to do in the plan, our CEO turned around and said it was one of the first times that the whole board's been so excited. So we had finance, we had all the different areas really excited by this project and really wanted to know more about it. So exactly that situation where now everyone wants to do it, and one of the questions the CEO's asked is, how do you make things go faster? How can we get more? What do we want? And it's like, well, where's the money to start with? But it's almost like step-by-step agile, identify the value and then move into it. So we'll probably start with our circulation team because that's a key part of our business. But then you've also got the media team as well that are desperate for the data and how we run. So that's a challenge we're sort of facing at the moment, and it's a good challenge to have.
Good problem to have.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. And this diagram will not be readable by almost anyone in the room. But the other side of this, right? You had a certain vision for Reveal as in terms of its overall impact and value to the business and all your business stakeholders. But at the same time, behind that, right, for your team, there was a very real investment in architecture. Yes. There was a very real investment in the cost structure and the maintainability and the operational scale of this and the cost. Yep. Right. What were some of the key variables or decisions that led to the eventual physical architecture? Right. What were some of the main criterion or value points for your team that maybe weren't as exposed as much to the business people?
I think that there was definitely having that consolidated view of our customers. There was automation where possible. They just looking at exactly customer journeys that are done, sales attribution, sort of the list with all of this can just go on and on and on. So it's really about working for us as an agile approach, getting those stories, building them up, and then going back to the businesses to say, look, you want these 20 things done, but what's the highest value for you? And actually then work on those points and then go down those as a chain. Right.
And I think you decided at this point, right, I don't think it's a secret, you're going to go kind of AWS all in for overall architecture. Yep. Any comments as far as that decision and why that was a good decision for you?
I think the other bit with us as well, we are looking at Google Bigquery as well, like we just mentioned, that potentially in terms of data science and how we grow this environment, the key thing for us is to have somewhere where we're storing the data and then how visually it's represented and pushed out to the businesses so we've got consistency. But we are also thinking of BigQuery for like some of the larger queries, exactly similar to the previous presentation as well. But in terms of the whole suite, we've done some really cool stuff in terms of, I did a Amazon meetup a couple of weeks ago for Redshift, and that was really interesting, and just talking about some of the architecture side. So we're working with some real good guys on that space.
Tremendous. So I think with that, we'll just stop there and maybe take any questions that anybody might have for Bobby. All right, we have one at the back there.
What does Reveal stand for?
Sorry?
What does Reveal stand for?
So originally it was called DAVE. So, and that was Data Analytics Visualization Environment. And I love that name. I thought it was really cool. But
not from the marketing department.
Yeah. So, really. But that was it. So our chief digital officer didn't like the name, so it got scrapped. And then we had a little pool in the team, and Kay, I think, is here in the team, picked the name Reveal. And it's about revealing the data. It's about making sort of exposing what we have so that people can see what's there.
Another question at the back?
Yes,
I think in an organization, we're quite data rich and we've historically been quite information poor. One of the key challenges we've had is single customer view. Okay. We've got a mixture of channels, online, offline. A many-to-many problem.
Yeah, it is a problem. And what we've been doing is, so as part of the POC, what we essentially did was to aggregate data where we could, even though we didn't really want to go to that level, so we wanted to keep everything as raw as possible, but then it was using the power of Redshift to do that. And now we're in the first phase of the elaboration phase. We're again looking at the best approach. We haven't actually found the perfect answer. We did as part of the POC. We were able to merge it and use the power of Redshift, but we don't really want to do that every single time because we want the data in the rawest format. So yeah, it's something that we're trialing. So I can keep you updated and yeah, take it from there.
Great.
Thanks.
All right.
All righty, thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
guys.